Now, of course, running back talent matters. Like if we were to come out here and say the only thing that matters at the running back position is opportunity and situation, we'd be lying. We'd be an idiot, and you should probably turn off the video. But to be honest with you, running back is going to be the number one position where situation does matter, where we need to be looking at the offensive line. We need to be looking at the coaching staff. We need to look at the quarterback play. We need to look at the competition in the backfield as well as the team investment and try to come up with an overall projection for these rookies, both in year one and the long term. So we are going to go ahead. We are going to rank our top 10 running back landing spots. We also have a couple other teams that I want to talk about that aren't necessarily in the top 10, but likely to take RBs. But before we get into it, you better drop a like on this video. You better be subscribed to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And of course, if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, you will love flogfantasy.com. If you head over there right now and sign up for flogfantasy.com, you will see all of my updated rankings. We updated those yesterday. You will see my Dynasty research book, over 100 pages. Got to make sure you're checking out the draft guides tab for that one. And you will have access to all of your favorite Dynasty creators, rankings, articles, the whole 9 yards. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up and you will get 30% off any subscription. And on top of it, yours truly will go through and make a podcast breaking down your Dynasty team. But I think that should be about it. Let's go ahead and let's dive into this. First situation I want to talk about does not make the top 10 here, and this will be the New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots have picks 14, 46, and 76. So if we're looking at this, 14, it would be Bijan Robinson if they went running back. 46, it would be most likely Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs would be a horrible addition to this team, considering the fact you already have Ramondre Stevenson. Looks like they're more likely to grab that running back for first and second downs. So maybe instead they would go with a Zach Charbonnet, pick 46 or 76. Now, the reason the Patriots aren't going to make the top 10 for us, even though they have a phenomenal offensive line, is going to be centered around the fact you have Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson's still on his rookie contract as well. I mean, if we go through and look at what Ramondre did this past season, 210 rush attempts, 88 targets. The man had almost 300 touches out of the backfield this past season, 1,400 yards from scrimmage. And we've seen historically the New England Patriots, regardless of what their running back core consists of, they are going with a running back by committee. So even though they have a great offensive line, even though they generally have a phenomenal rushing attack, you don't want your running back going to a committee in New England if Ramondre is going to be the pass catcher. Now, our next spot will be the Arizona Cardinals. If you're looking at the Cardinals, they're not taking anybody with the 3rd overall pick at running back. You could see them go RB at pick 34. I think Jahmyr Gibbs would actually be a natural fit to play alongside James Conner for this next season. Then obviously Jahmyr Gibbs takes over for the long term when James Conner isn't there, or they go Zach Charbonnet at pick 66. If we're looking at Arizona, though, the reason they're not making the top 10 is uncertain coaching staff. We really don't know what to expect. Probably a pretty bad offense. Serious Kyler Murray injury. We still don't necessarily know how good Kyler Murray is in the first place. So with Arizona, if you were to see a running back go there, I think you're kind of hoping for Jahmyr Gibbs, but in reality, I don't think it's that good of a spot. Now, our next team will be the Washington Commanders. And if we're looking at Washington, this is a team that, yes, wants to run the ball, but you still have Brian Robinson. You still have Antonio Gibson. And no, I do not think that these are locked and loaded starting running backs at the NFL level. Of course not. But if we are looking at their involvement, even if they were to go through and take a running back in the 2nd round, if they were to take Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 47, I would assume that Jahmyr Gibbs would be stepping into that running back by committee, almost being just a better version of J.D. McKissick, maybe seeing an extra 5 or so touches per game. But I think you still would see a split backfield with Brian Robinson, most likely with first and second downs. Obviously, if they were to go Bijan Robinson at pick 16, then he gets the entire workload, but it still wouldn't be that good of an offense. Now, going over to our next team, Tampa. This is another team we've seen a lot of people saying Bijan Robinson can go to. I really don't understand it. Now, they are currently sitting with pick 19. They're sitting with pick 50. And if they were to make a move for Bijan Robinson, yeah, Rachaad White's not going to get involved. Maybe he sees 3 targets a game at the very most, but we can assume Rachaad White is just completely removed from this offense. But this team doesn't have a great offensive line. This team has a massive question mark at quarterback. This team's really going to be punting this next season, trying to play for 2024 to bring in either Drake May or Caleb Williams. So I know a lot of people have been linking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a running back. I don't know why. I don't want to see it. But yeah, we're going to have to talk about those 4 guys or those 4 teams because we've seen a lot of people mocking there. Now let's go into our top 10. And number 10, we will have the Chicago Bears, who lose David Montgomery this offseason. They have a ton of draft capital this year. I mean, they have multiple high picks. They would have more if they didn't trade Chase Claypool, but they have the 9th pick, which you could see them go Bijan Robinson. They have the 53rd pick. They have the 61st pick. And yes, they have Khalil Herbert, but it's not a guarantee Khalil Herbert is an actual starting running back this next season. Maybe he's better off as that depth piece. And with Justin Fields as your rushing quarterback, it's going to be very similar to the situation that we have at 9 with the Baltimore Ravens. With Fields as your rushing QB, you are inherently going to see a higher efficiency mark with whoever the starting running back will be. The reason for this is the added bonus you get from a quarterback like Justin Fields, like Lamar Jackson, is if that quarterback goes to hand the ball off, the linebacker's not able to crash down on the running back, assuming that it's either going to be a carry or play action. You could always have Justin Fields tucking it himself and taking it off the edge. So naturally, the linebackers kind of have to freeze in these offenses that have the dynamic quarterback. But at the same time, the Chicago Bears will be a bad offense overall. And at the same time, Justin Fields himself will monopolize a lot of the points, including the rushing touchdowns in the offense. So with these rushing quarterbacks, you have the good, you have the bad. I don't think there's a lot of competition, but I have to include the Chicago Bears as a top 10 team here. Now, going over to 9, we are going to have the Baltimore Ravens. With Baltimore, there's clearly so much uncertainty, right? But we know, historically speaking, the Baltimore Ravens, yes, under a different coaching staff, but still wanted to be the most run-heavy team in the NFL. Now, with the different offensive coordinator in Baltimore, we are going to assume that this changes. That's why the Baltimore Ravens are down at 9, and they're not higher than this, even though this is a team that wants to be the #1 rushing offense in the NFL. Historically, we don't really know who the quarterback's going to be. We don't really know the health and the availability or how much this team's still committed to J.K. Dobbins. So there are a lot of question marks, but if the Baltimore Ravens were to decide to go with Bijan Robinson at pick 22, I would be very confident that regardless of what the offensive scheme is, regardless of who the quarterback is, he's going to score a lot of points in Baltimore. Now, they don't have a second rounder. They don't have a third rounder. So really, it's only going to be Bijan at 22. Now, going over to our next tier, we will be looking at the Dallas Cowboys at 8. With Dallas here, you have the 26th pick and the 58th pick. With the Dallas Cowboys, you miss out from Ezekiel Elliott, where, yeah, Zeke has historically had a ridiculous amount of raw volume, even if he hasn't been good with it in Dallas over the past 3 or so seasons. Like, if we're going to go through and look up how many damn rushing attempts and targets Ezekiel Elliott had out of the backfield this past year, probably going to be a surprise to see he had 231 rushing attempts. If we're looking at Zeke over the past 3 seasons, you have 231, 237, 244, 301, 304, 242, 332 rush attempts. Now, of course, we can operate under the assumption Tony Pollard's the starting running back in Dallas this next season, but Pollard's playing under the franchise tag. We really don't know what the long-term outlook's like there. This is a team that kind of wants to run the ball. This is a team that if they were to go Bijan Robinson at 26, I think it would be a smash. And I think this is a team that could also go Zach Charbonnet at pick 58. I think if you go Zach Charbonnet and pair him up with Tony Pollard, from a real life perspective, it would be dynamite. Now, of course, if Pollard is too large of a role, it may not be great for Zach Charbonnet, but an offense that is going to have a lot of rushing volume. Now, going over to our next team, we will have the Atlanta Falcons at 7. So Atlanta has a few things going for it that these other teams at the top don't. The main thing they have going for it is you could argue that as of 2023, the Atlanta Falcons want to be the most run-heavy team in the NFL. If you looked at how laughable the passing offense was under Arthur Smith this past season, it looks like you have Atlanta wanting to be one of those teams that just runs the ball over and over again. Tyler Algier looked good at the end of last year, but keep in mind he was a day 3 draft pick, so you shouldn't be too surprised if they decide to move on from him. Now, even though the rushing volume will be there, because the offense overall is probably going to be so bad and you have Tyler Algier, I can't have them ranked much higher than this. So we will have him at 7 due to the issues with the overall offense. But now at 6, we will have the Buffalo Bills. I understand this is a team that signs Damien Harris this offseason, but if you're looking at this Damien Harris contract, we'll pull it up right now. It's nothing special. It's not like they give Damien Harris a deal where he is just locked and loaded being a starting running back in Buffalo for years to come. He signs a 1-year deal with $1 million guaranteed. And $1 million flat. So it's a depth running back acquisition for a team that had no depth at the running back position. The Bills are currently working with pick 27, pick 59. Now, the issue is very similar to what we talked about with the Chicago Bears, where if you have that quarterback that's going to be running the ball consistently, you are naturally going to see that quarterback vulture rushing touchdowns at the goal line and also look to dump the ball off out of the backfield less often whenever the pocket collapses. Instead of Josh Allen having to dump the ball off to the running back, he can take it and run it himself. If we think back of the running backs that have accounted for the most targets in the NFL over the past 5 years or so, you're looking at guys like Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, who of course were elite passing down running backs in their own right. But what did they also have? They also had quarterbacks that couldn't escape the pocket. They had quarterbacks that had to dump off every chance they got, such as Drew Brees, such as Phillip Rivers at respective times. So you don't have that with Buffalo, but you have a running back depth chart that'd be very easy to climb. And you have a team that will score approximately a zillion points. So you have some positives, you have some negatives. Now our next team, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at 5. Now the Chiefs are picking at 31 and they are picking at 63. If Bijan were to fall to the Chiefs at 31, obviously it'd be a surprise. We expect him to go a lot higher than that, but we're playing the what-if game here. They would have to take him, right? You would have to see Bijan Robinson going to the Kansas City Chiefs, being what they wanted from Clyde Edwards-Helaire so many years ago. And if we are looking at Bijan Robinson going to the Chiefs, I think that he would probably jump to be like the #1 overall player in Dynasty startups in terms of one quarterback leagues. But we don't need to focus in on that too much. What I would more so look at is pick 63 for the Kansas City Chiefs, where you could see them either going with Zach Charbonnet or Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs, if you were to fall to pick 63 to pair up with Isaiah Pacheco, that would be beautiful. Now, the issue with the Kansas City Chiefs and why we can't have them so high, even though they may be the best offense in the NFL, is this is a team that doesn't really want to run the ball. Maybe they run the ball a little bit more if they actually get that solidified running back in. But if we're looking historically, this is a team that really has not scored many running back points overall. Now, going over to 4 in this same tier, we are going to have the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, with the Eagles, they bring in Rashad Penny, but they pay him nothing. Okay, they could cut Rashad Penny in a week and it wouldn't freaking matter. So with the Eagles, you have pick 10, you have pick 30, you have pick 62. We would be looking at Bijan Robinson 10, maybe Bijan Robinson 30 if you get lucky, or Zach Charbonnet 62. In my mind, Jahmyr Gibbs wouldn't be a great fit given the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to win off of catching the ball. And like we were just discussing, those quarterbacks like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, while yes, they are going to increase the efficiency of their offense overall, particularly their starting running backs yards per carry, they will not be looking to check the ball down. When the pocket collapses, they can run it themselves. So you really don't want Jahmyr Gibbs with Jalen Hurts. You'd really like to see the other backs. Now, the reason we're going to have the Eagles higher than the Bears, higher than the Ravens, even though they have the same issues with the rushing quarterback, is Philadelphia wants to run the ball, and Philadelphia is very effective at running the football, arguably the best rushing offense in the entire NFL. So even if Jalen Hurts will take a lot of those points, having a guy in that backfield will always be a great thing. Now, going to our top tier here, we are going to have massive asterisks, okay? There will be asterisks for these teams. We're going to have the Minnesota Vikings who are picking at 23. Bijan Robinson going to Minnesota at 23 would be great, but the reason we have an asterisk here is clearly that this would imply that Dalvin Cook is being let go. That Dalvin Cook is not going to be with the Minnesota Vikings this next season. But if that were to occur, we've seen Minnesota, for a very long time now, just be looking to run the ball, use a bell cow running back, and adding in Bijan Robinson would just be essentially, the better version of what you had with Dalvin Cook over the past 5 seasons, who's consistently been a top 5 running back from a points per game perspective. Now at 2, We have an offense that will also have another asterisk on it. We have the Cincinnati Bengals, who have picked 28 as well as pick 60. Now, what we need to see with the Bengals, very similar to the Minnesota Vikings, they have to get rid of their 2017 running back. They have to get rid of Joe Mixon if this is going to work out. But if they were to go out of their way and draft Bijan Robinson, pick 28, Joe Mixon, see you later. You're gone. And if that were to be the case, Cincinnati is an elite level offense. Cincinnati is a team that is willing to run the ball, and Cincinnati does not have a quarterback that will vulture rushing touchdowns. That is massive. And for this reason, because Joe Burrow's more of that pocket passer, I actually think Jahmyr Gibbs would be a phenomenal landing spot at pick 60 for the Cincinnati Bengals as well if Jahmyr Gibbs were to fall that far. Now, our number one team will have a massive asterisk next to it, will be the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, with the Chargers, they have pick 21, they have pick 54, and with the asterisk next to the Chargers, it is assuming that they move on from Austin Eckler, which if I was a betting man, I would say this is not likely. But we've seen a lot of smoke about this as of late. I mean, we've seen a lot of people coming out and saying that Austin Eckler will be on the way out in Los Angeles, that they don't want to give him that contract. And instead of giving him that contract extension, they would rather trade him and then draft a running back like Bijan Robinson at 21. And if that were to happen, very similar to what we're talking about with the Cincinnati Bengals, you have an elite level offense. You have a phenomenal young franchise quarterback that will not vulture rushing touchdowns and is not going to be running the ball like a madman. So those top three teams, obviously, we need to see some things change if they would be good landing spots. But if they are going to be good landing spots for those top guys, we can be almost guaranteed that things would change because the teams would have no reason to go out there and draft those top players if they didn't move on from the guys they currently have. But I think that's all we have for this breakdown. Again, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed this, make sure you're going down there, dropping a like in the video, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And as always, really hope you have a great day, and I really hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.